What if I told you that you could have over 21 tools on you at all times to give you everything you need to work on your scuba gear, whether it's at home, in the field, or even underwater? No, I'm not talking about a Leatherman or a similar multi-tool like that. I'm talking about something that fits in the palm of your hand and is literally about the same size as a credit card. Interested? Well, in this video, I'll show you this genius all-in-one tool that every diver needs to add to their Save a Dive kit. Let's get into it. I'm Thomas Hughes, a professional scuba instructor, and on this channel, you'll see videos on scuba education, equipment, experiences, and environmental awareness. Like most things in life, scuba diving has some gear that requires regular maintenance to make sure that it's working properly when we need it most, especially if we're underwater. Unfortunately, this means that you need to have a few different specialty tools, a variety of different wrenches or spanners. You'll need hex keys, you'll need screwdrivers, and quite a few other things that can just really add a lot of bulk to your Save a Dive kit or to your workbench and your tools at home. This can be a real hassle, especially if you're getting ready to go on a dive trip, because with your Save a Dive kit, it's just too much weight to be able to take all those heavy tools, whether that's in your checked luggage and you have weight limits to worry about, or just really just so much bulk of taking all that stuff with you to the Caribbean or wherever it is that you're going to be going on a trip. But that is where the Pandora Tool comes in. Now, before we get too far in the video, I do want to put a disclaimer that Pandora Lab did send me the Pandora Tool 3.0 to check out, but they didn't pay me and they didn't ask me to do a video or really anything like that. Quite the opposite. I actually reached out to them because I saw this tool with my course director and said, hey, what is that? I want one of those, and let me find out if the company's willing to send me one. So I reached out to them, they sent me one, and they said, I don't really care if you do a video or not, go ahead and check it out. And if you want to make some coverage on it, great. If not, that's okay too. They didn't pay me anything at all, but they said I can keep the tool. So I just wanted to disclose that. So just know that while I did get this for free, I actually asked for the product myself because I was interested in checking it out. And if it worked out well, I wanted to show it to y'all. And since this video is being made, you can have an idea of what I think about it. Now, first of all, yes, it has over 21 tools inside of this little thing right here. And I'll get into some of those as well as some of the use cases in just a few moments, but I wanted to cover a few other things first. These extra features really sold it for me as being basically my Save a Dive kit that I take with me on my trips now, where I still need a few other things and more on that a little bit later, but this is pretty much the only set of tools I'm going to be taking with me on my trips now. First and foremost, it's made out of titanium, which means that it's not going to rust at all. So not only can I take it anywhere with me and I don't have to worry about it being on the boat for an extended period of time or anything like that, but I can actually take this with me while I'm underwater. And I'll talk about why you might want to do that if you think that's a little bit crazy in just a few minutes. Next, this thing actually weighs less than 60 grams, which is way lighter than any multi-tool I've ever seen. And that's typically what people like to bring instead if it's not one of these. And not to mention the fact that it doesn't have a blade on it. So you can actually take this in a carry-on or in your pocket. And a multi-tool usually has some type of knife or saw or something like that. So you'd have to check that in your checked luggage, where this can go in your carry-on or again, in your backpack, pocket, whatever you want. Then finally, it's just so compact. I mean, look at this. It literally fits in the palm of my hand. It's only 7 millimeters wide. So I'm not sure if you can see that on camera as it focuses. So it's thicker than a business card or credit card, don't get me wrong, but not by much, like just a few of them stacked together. And the overall size is about the same footprint as a credit card or a business card. Okay, so let's talk about the actual tools itself that this has on it and the different use cases that you might have for it as well. And remember, there's a lot of them. So there's more than 21 tools on this little device. And because of that, there are a lot of different use cases. So obviously I can't cover everything, but you can check out their website for some more options and ideas. And they actually include a little card when you unbox it that has a bunch of different use cases on there as well. So you can kind of see, what tool you need for the job that you're trying to have. So first of all, there's actually a Phillips head and flathead screwdriver at the very top. So flathead, Phillips head right here, which obviously screwdrivers come in handy for all sorts of things. Having both options on here is great. Sometimes small form factor things do only a flathead because you can use that as a Phillips head in a pinch, but it's nice to have both on here. And that can be used to do things like adjust hose clamps or maybe something on your back plate or even like fin straps, for example. Next, you have hex wrenches or Allen keys, whatever you want to call them, of different sizes. So on this side here, you have a few different sizes there. You can see at the tip of the post here. Those are things that are going to allow you to take out like port plugs, for example, or maybe the pro valve out of a tank, for example, if you're converting it from a yoke to a DIN insert. A couple different options there, and there's actually some on the other side as well. So there's one here. So you have, multiple sizes of hex wrenches that are on the tool itself, just again, conveniently located on different parts so you can adjust those, take out port plugs, etc. They've also included a really ingenious way to get quite a few different wrench sizes or spanner sizes, I guess you could say, that allow you to do things like take off hoses or adjust nuts and tighten those things up and stuff like that. So you can actually see them slotted here where there's one size here, and then if right above it is actually a wider gap for another size, then there's a size here, and on the other side we have a similar thing where there's one size here and then a wider nut would be able to fit in this upper piece here. And then you even have some extra specialty tools, another nut size here at the very top. It's really just a cool tool that's full of all these different things, and it's just such an ingenious design. Finally, I guess I should also talk about the different nut sizes in this spot here. So this section here has a variety of different holes that are all different nut sizes. Now, all of those are really cool, but those are for the most part fairly standard tools that you'd find in an average multi-tool, maybe without the Allen keys or hex keys, but still, like most multi-tools can handle a variety of different things. And if you have like a Leatherman, you get, needle nose pliers, for example, and that can handle different nut sizes, for example, or taking off a hose. If you're really in a pinch, I wouldn't necessarily want to do it, but I could. But as divers, we actually need some specialty tools as well that aren't very common to actually have on a multi-tool. For example, you actually get a C-clamp, which is this one here with the pin. I believe a C-clamp wrench is the right way to define that. But that's actually used on things like a first stage, for example, where there's a little pinhole and you got to have the right size wrench to actually turn that first stage and remove the first stage cover off of it. So something that you wouldn't normally find. Scuba Pro also has their own proprietary little like ratcheting type thing. I don't remember the name of it here, but those ridges there on that wrench size there. There's also a couple other things for our BCD, for example. So using these different prongs right here, you can actually do a K-type inflator valve change. So if you go ahead and press in on your BCD inflator valve, you can actually turn this to adjust that and take the button off and fix the spring underneath, for example. There's also a double post thing here in the center. If you can see that there, that's actually for the inflator valve, like the actual stem for the stem itself. It's the same stem that you would see on like bike tires sometimes. That'll let you change out that stem or that valve if need be too. Then finally, after you're all done diving for the day, there's one of my favorite things that they threw in here, which is a bottle opener. And actually that is a bottle opener. So I don't know if that'll show through on the camera super well, but there's a lip there, and that scuba tank is a bottle opener, which is really cool because scuba tanks can sometimes be called as bottles, and you can use that to pop a bottle open, whether it's a ice cold beverage of alcoholic variety or otherwise where you need that bottle opener. So just kind of a nice thing that they threw in there too. Now, again, when you take it out of the box, you get this little instruction sheet that shows all the different types of use cases and things that you could do as far as field repairs. And sometimes it does require a few extra things, like maybe some O-rings, which they do sell a separate kit for that, or maybe checking in like the IP or the basically the pressure on your first stage, for example, before you make adjustments. But outside of buying those tools from them or something like that, this thing alone will allow you to fix so many different problems out in the field. And if this can't fix it, then you probably have a lot bigger problem that you're going to want to go back to a shop for and get it in for service or something like that. Now, one thing I did mention earlier was taking it with me underwater. And you might have thought that was a little bit weird or crazy because normally you wouldn't take like a screwdriver with you, right? But actually tech divers do take different toolkits with them underwater. And from a tech diving perspective, think about being deep inside of a cave or inside of a wreck somewhere, or even if you're in open water, you have deco obligations perhaps, and you can't just go to the surface when you have a problem. So a lot of times you have to diagnose and fix something underwater. And depending on what it is, you might literally pull a toolkit out of your pocket or out of your butt pouch or something like that. And then you'll pull that toolkit out, set it down, and pull out some wrenches and different spanners and things like that, and actually try to make a fix. So, that could be a free-flowing regulator. It could be a SPG that's leaky and you need to just tighten up a little bit, something like that, right? And the idea of this being titanium means that it's not gonna rust in salt water. So yeah, you still wanna rinse it afterwards and things like that, but I can actually take this with me and it's so small, I can just fit it in a pocket really easily, even like the little zipper outside pocket on a lot of wetsuits and dry suits. And this can be my tool instead of taking an entire tool bag with me. And yeah, it's not gonna replace everything, and I'll talk about that in just a moment, but really kind of a cool idea that it's rust proof and you just take it with you underwater if you wanted. Overall, I really like the tool, and I think it's something that every diver should look at picking up for at least their travel Save a Dive kit. I left a link down below so you can check it out, and I encourage you to do so because again, they just want to kind of get the name out about their product, and I've seen some knockoffs out there as well, and this one really is one of the best ones I've seen, which I think again is the original design. My only real complaint so far as a con goes is that because it is so compact and small designed, you have to think that sometimes things like, if I'm using this Phillips headpiece right here, for example, I'm trying to tighten it and I can't always get the same leverage because it's a little bit shorter. It's not like a long handle, for example. It is thick enough that I can get a good grip on it, but then you're trying to fit this kind of somewhat wide thing versus a long needle of a screwdriver, for example. So, you know, kind of like convenience of the portability of it and the size of it versus carrying a bunch of different tools. But that's like one of the few cons that I have, is that, you know, depending on what it is, you might not be able to get enough leverage, or you might not be able to slip it in where you need to without like a little bit of difficulty, or just kind of working around the situation. Not a like deal breaker by any means, but something to think about. And, you know, again, one of the cons that I would say with it. Outside of that though, so far I haven't really found any other cons, and it's something that I'm really excited to have in my travel dive kit now. Now, this thing really does have a lot of tools, but it doesn't fully replace my travel save and dive kit, because that travel kit still has to have a few other things like O-rings, batteries, some first aid items, and things like that. There's really quite a few extra things I still recommend that people take, even in a travel size save and dive kit, and that's why in this video, I talk about everything I put in my own personal save and dive kit. Click or tap the screen now so you can check that out, and with that, stay safe, have fun, and let's go diving.